Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to start with a quote. The ears of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. Great president once said that. Mr. President, I rise today to make it clear to everyone in this chamber exactly why I cannot support this legislation. You've heard the chants outside this chamber, not just today and last night, but many times over the past 2 years. Thousands of people have shown up, union and non-union, men and women, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, even their children. These are the working families of Michigan. These are the thousands of people that I would sit here to represent. When I vote no, I'm voting no on behalf of the thousands of families. Who are you voting yes for? Grover Norquist? I know he sent you all a letter asking you to support this anti-worker legislation. You are voting yes because a handful of corporate lobbyists, a handful of fat cats in the back are telling you to. That's who you work for, the powerful few, the guys with top hats and monocles. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I work for the people, for the many. I proudly represent them in casting this no vote. I'm doing what's right, what's good for the people. And I tell you this, Mr. President, we will fight you. We will not let this stand. We'll fight you from Kalamazoo to Timbuktu. We'll fight you from the streets and in the suites. We'll fight you in the pit house and we'll fight you in the outhouse. And Mr. President, I'll tell you this right now, when it's all said and done, when it's all over, we will grab the thunderbolt of truth. We will grab the rod of revolution and we will have our victory. And the spoils will go to the working people of Michigan. And you will forever remember the day when you thought you could conquer labor. You were sorely mistaken. Be prepared to engage in the fight of your life. You might win this battle, but the wars are brewing, sir. The wars are brewing, sir. And we're coming, and we're taking no prisoners, and we're taking no quarter. And Mr. President, when all said is done, working men and women of this state will reign supreme. Thank you, and I ask that my comments be printed in the journal.
Hello and welcome to The Young Effect. I am your state senator, Coleman Alexander Young II. Before we begin, as always, I want to give honor to those who serve us overseas, our military, for fighting the good fight for our freedom right here in the good old U.S. of A. I think they all should come home, whether it is in Afghanistan, whether it is in other parts of the world. It's time for our military to come home. We've had this war long enough. It's time, y'all. And we're going to continue to keep doing this until they come home. We're going to continue to keep having this, honoring them until they come home. Now, you know about what I believe. I believe that America's role as a global policeman is coming to an end. I personally think that we're overextended in a lot of these countries and a lot of these places, and I feel that we need to bring them home in victory. And we need to support them for what they've done, because they are willing to give the ultimate sacrifice of their lives for the freedoms we so have right here in the good old U.S. of A., the United States of America. I also want to say thank you to our police officers, our firefighters, our local emergency services personnel, for all the wonderful things they do to keep us safe. They run the hail of gunfire, run the burning buildings, run in dangerous situations just to save our lives. We thank God for them. We love them. We honor them. So please join me for a moment of silence for the fallen in Afghanistan and for those who lost loved ones in Iraq. To those who lost loved ones who were served on the police department, or in the fire department, or emergency services personnel, we love you. We thank God for you, and we're praying for you. Please join me for a moment of silence for the fallen and for their family members. All right, thank you so much. And with that being said, remember, you can come down here and sign my petition. I got a petition right here because you know I am running for Congress to be your next congressman of the 13th district. If you live in the 13th district, you can come down here and sign a petition. We have to have 1,000 signatures. We're getting real close to that goal. We need your support and help. So you want to come down here to the station. We have petitions here. Make sure you sign my petition, because we're going to go up there in D.C. and take it back for the people of the 13th. And also remember, I'm the person with the most experience in this race. I got a 12-year record. I created over 10,000 jobs through movie tax credits. I've kept passed legislation to reduce property taxes through NEZs that keep people in their homes. Passed legislation reducing blight signage. Passed legislation, historic civil rights legislation, making sure that pregnant women receive mandatory paid leave in the public and private sectors. I passed legislation involving energy cost recovery for the energy industry. And I passed legislation making sure that we regulate the medical marijuana industry. I've appropriated over $2 million to keep Focus Hope open. I've appropriated over $550,000 to keep Charles H. Wright Museum, because it's very important that we protect, fight, and preserve our history. And I've also appropriated $6.8 million for low-income food and energy assistance, which allows me to draw down $300 million from the federal government. So in the words of my father, the Honorable Coleman Alexander Young Sr., I bring home the bacon. I've done that as your state rep and state senator. That's what I will continue to do as your next congressman. So I need your support. Get behind me. It's open mic Sunday. Anything you want to talk about except each other, call on. Please let me know. I just want to say before I go on, I was at Whitlock Memorial Church of God in Christ. Pastor Keith Crump gave him a tribute. That was a phenomenal experience. So I just want to say to everybody, thank you that was there. Thank you. Appreciate you. We just going to keep this thing going. We want to knock doors all throughout Romulus. We're going to continue to keep knocking doors. We've been doing it all throughout the city of Detroit. Been to E-Course. Been to Westland. Going to River Rouge. We're going to be somewhere everywhere before this is through. Because that's how I am. And that's what I do. I try to talk to as many of my constituents as I possibly can, because I care, and I've been doing that, and I've been on the front lines. And like everybody else is running, I ain't talking about just what I want to do. I'm talking about what I've done. And I got a 12-year record of success to show what I've done and how I'm doing it. Words are important, but I think actions, words describe a man, but actions define him. And I think my actions have defined who I am, what I'm about, what I've done, where I've been, and where we're going to go together when I'm your next congressman. We got some callers? We got, okay. So remember, you can call in at 313-868-0351 or 313-868-4336. So that's why I'm running. I want to put people back to work. Don't you want to do something about these potholes? I'm all tired of avoiding them and evading them. They say that phone calls to auto body shops have gone up by over 30%. 30%. People are paying out of their nose. Enough is enough. There's no reason why we can't take advantage of public-private partnerships. We got a call? Oh, well, we got a call. Call, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, Senator Young.
Hi.
Happy Palm Sunday to you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Same to you, gorgeous. How you doing? I got
I'm
a palm
fine,
on
thank
right
you.
here.
Now, listen, you touched on a topic just now when you were referring to the potholes. Now, I would like you, because you seem to be very knowledgeable and very forthright in the information to us as citizens and as people about the different monies and revenues that are taken from our taxes. So, like, I would like you to explain to me and the citizens about the gas tax that we all pay per gallon statewide, that is a designated tax for the roads. Whenever we hear a discussion about the roads, they never discuss that. And I believe they're playing three-card Molly with that money. In addition to that, sir, could you possibly address the issue that I heard yesterday or Friday afternoon, where Governor Snyder released $175 million statewide for the roads, but then the very next statement, they said that the weight limit that we drive on the roads, they were going to go up, increase the weight limit. And if I'm thinking correctly, that means that there's more heavy weight on the roads that will destroy the roads. I'll wait for your answer, sir.
Well, thank you so much. That's a whole lot there. Let me just say, first of all, in terms of the Michigan gasoline, there's something called the Michigan Transportation Fund, and that's where that money is. That's constitutionally restricted. So that means that money can only be used particularly for roads, only be spent particularly for roads. Now, there's also another piece of that, which is the sales tax, and that money is distributed to the education fund. The problem is that even though they changed it to a percentage tax from just solely based on, cents per gallon, which if one time was 19, now that they raised up 22, 23, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that margin. The problem that we have is that the money, even though now it's indexed to the rate of inflation, the money has not gone up to the cost it would provide to make sure that we have the best roads possible. And when you have these weather events, which is another reason why we need to do something about climate change, because when you have it snows like what it does when the snow comes down on the roads, and then what happens is when you have these little holes, the snow gets into I don't explain all of it, so I might be a little bit wrong here, but the snow gets into the road, and then I think once it melts, I think it comes to the water, and then it expands. It expands. I was sitting here looking at the public works director, and sitting here, my mom sitting here trying to make sure I get this right. So correct. So it freezes. Then after it freezes, once it freezes, it expands the road. And so once it expands the road, you have these potholes that are there. It melts, and then it expands, and it melts. There's a whole process to it. I'm not a real expert on it long term, but let me say this. Because of the snow affecting the roads, freezing the roads, affecting the roads, it creates these potholes. And because of that, and because, well, let me finish. Because of that, we having a conversation here back and forth. But because of that, and because the fact that the gasoline tax is not caught up to the rate of inflation, and also the fact that you have this heavy truck weight. Now, they will say that they have more axles in order to make sure that they can distribute that weight more evenly. But in my opinion, it's still more weight on the roads. And we don't have that anywhere else in the country. Michigan has the most per weight, you know what I'm saying, it allows the most weight per truck than any other state in the country. Not to mention also the fact that Michigan spends the least out of other Midwest states on its roads. Ohio spends roads. Indiana, I think, spends more on their roads. So we in the Midwest region spend the least on our roads. We have the weather issues that we have, and then we have the cost inflation issues that we have. And that's why we're not there. Now, they have over $866 billion, if I'm not mistaken, in the rainy day fund. And like my colleague from Lansing, Curtis Hertel, said, it's literally raining concrete. I don't know why we can't, as a temporary stopgap measure, use that money and couple it with other things that we need to do to raise revenues in order to fix these roads. Now, again, that's a temporary fix, and you're talking about asset management, and we need to do a better job of using asset management. That's where you have all the data and information available to you to be able to make the best decisions about the roads and the best investments possible. These are things that we need to do, as well as start talking about looking at different material, whether it's high performance concrete, whether it's bendable concrete, whether it's rubber, or whether it's hempcrete, which is less brittle, which can last longer. But we need to make sure that we make the investments in our infrastructure system, in our infrastructure as a whole, just from all the products and goods and services that come up and down the roads in trucks. This is very important, economically speaking. And so I think that this is something that we should be doing long term because of the weight that's on the trucks, because of the wear and tear of the roads, because of the weather conditions, which are constantly messing up the roads the way that they are. That's why they are what they are. And the fact that we have not made the proper investments that we need to make in the roads. That's why we need to be where, because they're talking about between $1 billion annually, just the extra $1 billion on top of what we already have now, just to be able to fix the roads like we need to fix them. And so we're going to have to start looking at how we're doing it. And other states have already made that decision. This is just lack of leadership. $165 is good, but it's not nearly enough to fix the roads to the optimum level. And we can't keep having this where you're having people who are driving 60, 70 miles an hour down the freeway and run into a pothole and blow their tire, or run down some of these local roads, which are funded through Public Act 51. So I think these are things that we need, and they're having conversations about change. I don't necessarily know that's a good idea. We might be able to have some amendments, but I don't necessarily know that's the best idea right now, quite frankly. I think it's 39 for cities, 39 for count. No, it was 39, I think, for counties. I think it's 39. It's 39 for state road, 39 for counties, and I think it's 21 for municipalities, villages, if I'm not mistaken. That's how that breaks out. So, for 39 for state trunk line roads, because even though it's maybe like 5% of the roads total, it's like 51% of the traffic. You're talking about those state roads. So those are things that we need to do in terms of that regard. These are so that's what we have to have in terms of what's happening with our roads. I hope that answered your question. But let me say this. I believe we do need to start talking about reducing truck weight. That's something that's not very popular. But we need to have that conversation because we can't keep having what we're having. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you can't say that, the axle, shifting the axle weight is working when our roads are in one of the worst conditions that anyone else in the country. And we also need to make sure that when they're hiring people for these jobs, that they adhere to the MDE, that's the Michigan Disadvantaged Enterprise Fund, of hiring folks who are minorities of 10%. Because they ain't doing it. And we're seeing it. And that's what I've been fighting for as a state legislature. It's just late tour. Now, unfortunately, I'm in the minority. I'm 1 out of 11 people right now. Republicans control the House, the Senate, the governorship, and the courts. That's why it's important to vote. And when you vote for Coleman Young, Congress of the 13th District. Let's get it done. Got another caller? Hello?
Hey, good evening, Senator Deputy Chief. How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
All right. Hey, what I was calling about, are you aware of a non-disclosure agreement signed between the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Rock Venture, and Dan Gilbert?
No.
Oh, okay. Here's the situation. Mike Duggan put Dan Gilbert in charge of the Amazon bid committee. Okay, it's a 60-member committee, and he offered incentives to Amazon. Those incentives were Michigan tax money and Detroit tax money. The citizens of both Detroit and Michigan need to know what Dan Gilbert offered Amazon. Now, this non-disclosure agreement was supposedly signed in 2016 between, like I say, you could say the state of Michigan and Dan Gilbert, okay? Mike Duggan put him in charge of the committee, but this is supposed to be a Detroit project, not a Rock Venture project. So there's no reason why the citizens of Michigan and Detroit should not know what was offered in terms of tax incentives. So if you go to Crane's Detroit Business, you can listen to the podcast between Chad Livengood, the reporter from Crane's Business, and Nolan Finley.
Well, listen, I definitely think that we should be transparent. I definitely think that should be open to the public, and the public should see what's going on and what's happening. I mean, I wasn't aware of anything in terms of the agreement that they signed. That's not something that we do in the legislative side of things. I think that was something that was probably done through the executive branches of them talking to each other about this agreement. That's not something that we deal with or anything that's come before me at all. So I definitely think that's something that should be open to the public, and I think that should be discussed, and I think that should be debated, and people should make those decisions accordingly. So I mean, I totally agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. But as far as terms of that, like, did I have anything to do with it or their vote or anything like that? No, there was not.
Okay, no. My question to you is, as a senator, can you request Michigan State Attorney General to step in and give his opinion on whether this?
I mean, you can request. I mean, I think the issue is whether or not they're going to respond or not. And I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think it's an important issue, but I mean, but let me just explain this to you in terms of how I'm seeing this. I was in the Transportation Committee yesterday trying to get $30 million for the city airport for them to make that viable. I'm in committee trying to work with the Health and Human Services Committee to be able to make sure that I could get $2 million for Samaritan Center. I am working in the General Government Committee to try to make sure that we can bridge the digital divide, because I think it's about 37% of the people right now in the city of Detroit do not have access to the internet. And I'm trying to appropriate money to be able to make sure, one, that we do something about that in urban areas, because they're trying to have a program in rural areas, and appropriate money to be able to get that done, as well as start a pre-apprenticeship program so that the kids who are here locally in the city of Detroit can be able to get the skills they need to be able to get into these apprenticeship programs. So every time they build a new stadium or they build something else, they'll be able to get the jobs for it. So it won't be 25%. So there'll be more than 25% of Detroiters filling those jobs when it should be 51%. I'm not saying what you're saying isn't important, but I'm saying I'm dealing with all that. I'm not saying I can't do that. I'm just saying those are things that are really kind of clouding my view right now. Someone could do that. I just don't want to do that and lead people on with the thing that they're actually going to reveal this. I think they signed that non-disclosure agreement for that person, not for that reason, not to be revealed. I think is wrong and despicable. And I mean, I could work with you in the future in order to get something done, but I just want to let you know this is what I'm doing and focused on right now. On top of trying to do something on auto insurance reform and trying to do something on guns. Thank you.
Okay. What I'm asking as a resident in your district, you as a senator, will you request the Schuette, the Attorney General, to look at this matter and make a decision on if this thing is legal or not? Because again, this Amazon deal was a Detroit project, and if Duggan can't give the approval to release the information, only Gilbert can give it.
I'll make sure I'll talk to you about this. I'll talk to you about this at a later date. I'll make sure I want to read into it and look at it. I'll make sure I'll call you at a later time. But I will call you. Yeah. We got the caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Belinda. How are you?
Good.
That's good. First, I thought I was already on because I didn't hear the caller that was before me. Okay, I'm calling about the potholes. Back in the day, when I was younger, many moons ago, we only had like little bitty potholes, but they used the black tar and the rollers. Mm-hmm. So this is what they need to use now. On the streets to have, because, once they fill the hole in, and I heard you say, which is true, once the cars go over it, it breaks that up, water gets underneath it, and then it lifts it back up. And you have the pothole repeats itself, along with the new potholes. So if they fill the hole in, and say the areas where the potholes are like not so close together, once they fill it in, they use the black tar, but they use a person who pushes the roller to fill it in. And the areas where the roads are real bad at, where there's a whole lot of potholes, once they fill those in, you use the truck. And they make sure they smooth it out. They will be able to, when the road people go out, they will be able to look at those areas that they've already, put the black tar on to see if it's breaking up. Because just to put that in the pothole, it's going to work its way out. And it's good, so we have to have something to fill it.
Listen, I understand what you're saying. You make a good point. I think they're already doing in terms of coal patch. I mean, they're already putting that and doing what you're saying. I think what we really need to start doing is building new roads and rebuilding roads, which is much more expensive in order to do instead of just fix. I mean, some roads you can fix up and serve that nature, but other roads I just think need to be totally reconstructed. And I think in order to do that, it's more expensive to preserve it longer.
I understand what you're saying, but see, the coal pack is not working. The hot tar will, because it's going to fill it. And like I said, the ones who are is not as many, they use the hand one, and the tar is hot tar, and it's going to fill it up. And where all the big ones are at, once they fill those in, use the hot tar and the truck to smooth it out, because the coal pack is not working.
I agree.
It's coal against coal.
I agree.
I'm telling you this. If they do like I just said, it will cut down on a lot of potholes. But one thing they have to do for sure, they have to make sure that they smooth it out. Just like how you put icing on a cake.
Okay.
That's how they're going to have to smooth it out. Okay, dear.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
I appreciate it. I love you, too. Okay,
thank
bye-bye.
you. We got another caller? Caller, you're on the air. Welcome to Young Effect. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello, Senator Young?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I would like to make two job announcements, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay, the first one, Trinity Transportation in Dearborn Heights is accepting applications for anyone that wants to drive the school bus. The second one is HCR, that's in Dearborn Heights as well, and they're looking for, excuse me, my voice is leaving me. They're looking for dietary assistants, or dietary aides, I should say.
Okay.
Okay, and then one more thing. Senator Young, did you know that if anyone did not use their Medicaid card as of March last year, up until March 31st, up until last year, up until March 31st of this year, as of April 1st, they're going to cut them off their Medicaid card?
No.
Okay, what I'll do, if anyone listening, tomorrow morning, I will call on Miss Broughton's show. I will give you all the number.
Okay.
Conrad Mallett was on Minister Malik Shabazz show the other day.
Okay.
And he was saying that anyone that did not use their Medicaid card up under Obamacare, it snuck up under everybody that they didn't know that they would lose their Medicaid.
No,
So,
I haven't heard of anything like that. If you don't use your Medicaid card, they
Yes,
gonna cut
and
it. I've never heard of anything like that. No.
yes, they would use that Obamacare that Obamacare came up with. Anyway, I did talk to my state rep Sylvia Santana, and I talked to Sherry Gay-Tanego.
Yeah.
No one knew about this, so I'm
No,
I'm
I've never heard of anything like that before.
Well, okay, so what I would do is that I'm going to give everybody the number, and you can also go on Minister Malik Shabazz Facebook page,
Right.
and you can pull it up what him and Conrad Mallett was speaking of about this. And Conrad is telling people, please go to your primary care physician and before March 31st, so you will not lose your Medicaid.
Okay.
Okay, so I just wanted to just put that out there. Sorry that my voice is coming.
No,
and
you
going.
fine. I'm glad you
I
called.
got pneumonia, so I
Oh,
just had to
we
call
praying
real
for
quick.
you.
Okay, so you all have a wonderful and blessed day.
Love you. Take care now.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye. Love you too.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. I mean, we were hearing these people talking about these certain things, and that's something that we definitely have to really, keep in mind here in terms of what's going on in terms of leadership. And I also think the fact that, you had Donald Trump as part of the Jobs and Tax Cuts Act basically getting rid of the individual mandate, which means that like 13 million Americans will be without health care. And now they're talking about cutting up Medicaid cards, and I haven't heard of anything like that at all. So I think that's something that we definitely need to look out for. I'm totally opposed to that 110%, by the way. I don't think that we should be cutting up healthcare cards at all. I think if we're talking about getting money to fund the government, we need to start talking about taxing the $750 billion. No, taxing the, $2.6 trillion that is sent offshore to the tune of $750 billion that we could be bringing back into this country, as well as dealing with China and closing our trade deficit, which will also bring $226 billion into this nation. We got another caller, which would close the deficit. Call, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
Hello?
Hello?
It's Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm watching the basketball game. But I wanted to call
Everybody
in.
watch the game right now. Shout out to Michigan making the Final Four.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Even though I went to state, but we were in here in Michigan, so I got to back the home team.
Yeah, you gotta do it. Gotta do it.
So I just wanted to give the office number so that the volunteers can call in. The weather is changing, and so we need more and more volunteers. And you've been out in all the cities that are involved in the 13th congressional district. So we need people to help with that. We need to make phone calls. And if anybody has any events they want you to come to, call this number as well, 313-675-7960. And also, another fantastic thing happened this week. You know what that is?
What?
You got your blue Tuskegee Airman jacket.
Hey, how about that? How about that? Blue Tuskegee Airman jacket. I think that's a good thing. I think I think it's an honor. I'll be considered the son of a Tuskegee Airman, and
of an original Tuskegee Airman.
Yeah, my father was the original Tuskegee Airman, so I think it's a tremendous honor to be a part of that group, and I think it speaks volumes. And I'm just very thankful to all the men that came before me, and I'm standing right now on the platform that the ancestors built for me to have. So I'm very thankful.
Well, you deserve it, right? You deserve it.
Well, I'm thankful. I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. I was definitely honored to have it.
And as well, you all went to Whitlock Memorial today for Palm Sunday, right?
Yes, I did. We just talked about that. I just went to Whitlock Memorial. Saw Keith Crump, Elder Keith Crump, who is now the pastor there, and it was a real good thing, So we got some signatures, got some good things. So a lot of good stuff has happened. Well, my volunteer Rhonda, who was there as well, so it was really good, really good.
The loyal volunteer Rhonda.
Yes, yes, yes. Well,
and we went to
volunteer.
Yes. Absolutely. She is so great.
Yeah.
And we went to the Unified Detroit Health Fair yesterday.
Yes, I did. That was real good. Saw a pastor, talked to him, talked to a whole lot of other folks, so it was real good.
And you went by the March for Our Life as well.
Yeah, I went by March for Life as well. That was good. I was over there. When I went to the health fairs over there at Bethel AME Church.
Yes.
So I went down over there, saw a pastor, and that, and then I went over to the March for Life. So that was real good. Then we went over there to Romulus, and we did that. So that was real good too. Yeah, talked to the people, got signatures over there. So it was all good. Then drove back to the Romulus Civic Club, met with the president as well. So that was real good. They had their little event going on down there. So I went down there. So that was real good. So it's all real good. And we managed to go to Del Taco over there. So, it all kind of worked out for the best.
You need to stay out the fast food places. Stay out them fast food places.
Yeah, man. Well, look, I was over there. It's over there at Dearborn Heights, also part of my district. So that was real good.
Yes.
All real good.
Spend your money. Those are beautiful cities. Beautiful cities.
Beautiful cities.
Yes. And so you got a fall week coming up as well. You on spring break?
Yes, we are. 2 weeks. 2 weeks on spring break. And I also forgot to say I went to St. Matthews, too. Me and Matthews with Joe's went down to that church, so that was real good. There was, I think it was like the fight against austerity. So I went down there to that meeting, so that was pretty good. Had a good time there with Margaret Harris and Yvonne, so that was real good. Hello? All right. Love you, Brenda. Appreciate you. Thank you for your phone call. We got another caller? All right. And so with that being said, again, like I'm saying, we just rocking and rolling with this thing. We're doing this thing every day. We're getting it done. We're going to be hitting these senior citizen homes real soon. We're going to be out here hitting these doors real soon. So we're doing a lot of real good things. And so I'm really proud of what we're doing and how we're doing it and the rate in which we're doing it at. I think this has been really good. I really like where we're going and where we're progressing. So remember, if you want to come down here and sign a petition, please do. We got petitions right here. You can come down here at WHPR, sign a petition. I got it right here. You can sign this petition right here. Please do. So we love to have you here. We got another caller? Okay. So Like I was saying earlier, I think the roads is something that's particularly good in terms of making sure that we have to fix these roads from the as well as from the federal level to make more investments. They have the Highway Trust Fund that basically is where the gas tax and the diesel tax comes in. These are things that we need to do. These are things that I want to do in order to invest in these roads, man, because not only is it safety, not only is it economic development in terms of goods and services that come up and down these roads, but it's also jobs for people here, rebuilding our infrastructure and rebuilding this. We got another caller. Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect. Hello?
Yes, good afternoon. Sorry to call back.
That's all right. Go ahead.
The petitions that you just held up, do we have to be in your district to sign those?
Yes, you do.
Okay. So we can always help by sending somebody that's in that district and supporting you that way. Now,
Yes, you
the
can.
other question I want to ask, I don't know if I called your show or some else's show where somebody called in and said about Donald Trump, them crazy Donald Trump, and them trying to get rid of the people that get them bridge cards or stamps or something and give them food baskets and things, something like that. I heard that.
He
But
tried-
I think that is so unhuman. Like, they don't
It's
care about
inhuman.
nobody. They're not, all they want you to do is support their families for life, but they want to take food out of our babies. I'm going to hang up so maybe you can speak on that or somebody heard about that.
Yeah.
See where that's standing at this point.
I
Okay,
can't
I'ma
speak
listen.
on it.
I'm going to hang up so I can listen to your response.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think it's terrible. I think it's inhumane. I think it's despicable. Why would you do that to the poorest of the poor? It's destruction of the social safety net. That's what it is. And most of these folks are working poor. You need to talk about people who are on the census. Majority of them are I think over 40% or close to working poor. That's who it is. And the rest are people mainly who are in pursuit of looking for a job. And you don't just get these benefits, you have to qualify to be able to get this. So this whole notion that all these people are just freeloading and nobody's out there trying to work to improve themselves and their families is absolutely absurd. That's why I want to raise the minimum wage to $15. That's why I want to make sure that we increase the earned income tax credit as well as the child care tax credit. And we also invest more in terms of child care for women who are, because right now the city of Detroit is considered a child care desert, and there's investments from the Child Care Development Fund that we have at the federal level, and we need to increase funds to that program. And I think if we do this as well as invest in Head Start and early Head Start and universal pre-K, we can not only deal with our children getting education early, we can also deal with them having the skills they need to combat poverty, as well as pre-apprenticeship programs, like I said earlier, and make sure that pre-apprenticeship programs and apprenticeship programs are paid, and make sure that the child care tax credit is fully refundable. These are things that we should be able to do to help the working poor, the common man, the everyday man, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the factory worker. That's who I'm fighting for. That's who I represent. And we also need to make sure they stop shipping jobs overseas. And when they do ship these jobs overseas, that we get rid of their tax subsidies and we start taxing these companies that ship our jobs overseas. And if you're going to give tax breaks to companies, you need to make sure those companies buy American products. Buy American, build American. And it requires somebody that's got the experience to be able to reach across the aisle and get things done. And I have that experience. I got a 12-year record. I got the best record out of anybody else here. I passed 11 laws. I got the best record. You know the caller? Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
Hi, it's Brenda. My phone cut out on me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
I also wanted to talk about business. I want people to like our Facebook page, Coleman A. Young II, and also our Instagram page, Coleman A. Young II, and the Twitter page, Coleman A. Young II. Go on there, check out what you got to say. You're putting up some videos this week, pictures of all the things that you're doing throughout the communities are on there. They can also ask you questions so you can respond to them as well throughout the week before they watch you on the show on Sundays. So, again, I want to give out the phone number, 313-675-7960.
Say it one more time.
313-675-7960. 7960.
Okay, say that one more again. Please.
313.
Yes.
675.
All right.
7960.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank
give me a
you.
call. I'm at the phone right now.
I appreciate you. I'll make sure they get it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'll see you later. Yeah.
Love you now.
Love you too.
Thank you, Brenda.
Bye.
And in case you didn't get the number, it's 313-675-7960. Speaking of numbers, I passed 11 laws. Speaking of numbers, I got a 12-year record. Speaking of numbers, I've appropriated over $300 million to this great state and created over 10,000 jobs. Ain't nobody else in this race done that. I got the best record. I got the best accomplishments. I got the best plan. Vote for the best candidate. Vote Coleman Young for Congress. You got a caller? Call you on the air. Vote to Young Effect. Hello? They must have been blown away by my record. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of building these roads and building this infrastructure. It's so vital and very important for us to do that. One. Secondly, I think what we need to start doing is we need to make sure that we invest more in manufacturing. I'm trying to work out something right now where I can invest more in manufacturing and putting folks back to work. I already talked about my pre-apprenticeship program that I'm working on right now. Just a fund to try to see if we can set something up and put some money in there to see if we can help people be able to get this training. Because right now, it's basically done, through the private sector and through charities and different things of that nature. And I want to create a program to be able to make sure that we can fund these sort of things. And so we can get this stuff done. Because it's very important. No, let me say this too, by the way. Because this is a total different issue. And I know it's not a smooth segue. But I want to say this before I forget it. The situation in Flint. I sit on the General Government Committee. In that committee, it funds the Attorney General's budget. They are having an investigation with the Attorney General and other people in the private sector, like a public-private partnership they have going on, where basically it has come to my attention that they had said that one of the driving factors behind them switching the water, or when they would switch the water from the Carigandi Water Authority to the local water plant in Flint, which is taking water out of the Flint water, which they did not treat when they made that switch. The emergency manager did single-handedly. That was a sole unilateral decision by him. Because you got to remember, all the elected officials from Flint were wiped out at the time. And they only voted to switch resources from DWSD to the newly built, or at the time they were building, the Carigandi Water Authority. Okay? Which I don't know why the state would agree to, because it cost the city of Detroit $22 million to do during a time when we were in financial crisis. Why would you take money from a city you're trying to stave off bankruptcy for? Even though the water department is separate from the city government, You still want as much money as you possibly can to provide the services. Because if they had the more money, you may not need the greater the Great Lakes Water Authority. You see what I'm saying? So they made this decision, and when they made this decision, instead of them just staying on DWSD until the Carigandi Water Authority was built, where they were going to take water from Port Huron, they decided to switch to their local water plant they had there, where they were taking water out of Flint River, which General Motors said the water is so bad they wouldn't even use it. They wouldn't even you would use it on their auto parts because the lead content was so high. They was rolling the paint on their auto parts. Okay? They are now saying that one of the motivating factors for what happened in Flint was financial fraud. So that actually, now there's some instances where they were actually saying they were stealing money from the bond issue that they issued to build the Carigandi Water Authority. That's the KWA. Me personally, I'm not saying this happened, and I'm being very speculative with this, okay? Or this is a guess. But remember, when Flint went through what they went through with their water, private water companies' stock prices went up. I'm not saying this happened, but to me, I'm kind of making, and it's a little bit of a jump. I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying I have any evidence because I don't. This is just purely speculative, me guessing here. But did they profit or did they invest in these companies when their stock price was going up? And if it was based on financial fraud, was it based on them doing that on purpose so they knew they could play the market? I'm not saying that's what happened, but I was saying that's what potentially could have happened. Now, they're saying, some people who are saying, when I talk to people in the media, who are saying that this came from them trying to, steal money from the bond issue, which probably is more likely. But I'm not trying to take anything off the table till we have all the facts saying that. And from people who told me this, they're saying that they cannot speak too much on it. So that's what happened with that. And if you notice, when I was in the paper talking about it, I had said I thought this is particularly disgusting and ghoulish. The fact that in inhumane, that now on top of just doing this, you're making this decision unilaterally to save money, now it was actually done because you had people who were making money off of it. Because it was sold at first as they were just saving dollars. So now you have not only 11 folks who died, but you have children who are neurologically damaged for life because somebody wanted to make a profit off of that. Just think about that for a minute. That there were people who actually made money off of poisoning an entire city's water supply. They actually profited, not just saved money, but put money in their pocket at the expense of children being neurologically damaged, of family members of people dying, of people being poisoned, of an entire city being environmentally at risk of ill health or death. So this is serious. There's two investigations going on at the same time. One with the Attorney General that is going from the ground up, and there's another federal investigation that's happening. They're sharing information with each other, bits and pieces. I'll let you know more about it, but I just want to let you know that's what was going on. If you read about what I was talking about, that's what that was about. So that's something that's very important. And that's why I'm also running for Congress, because I want to make sure that we provide the money necessary, one, in order to make sure we have the best water infrastructure. whether it be through your water, innovation financial infrastructure acts or WIFIA. We provide those grants. We're making sure that we provide more money from the federal government to state revolving grants that are appropriated to the states, to locals as a pass-through in order to make sure that local units of government get the money they need to be able to build infrastructure. Because you got to understand, 30% of all the water that DWSD pumps or generates is lost to leaks. And it's 8 billion gallons a day, 2 trillion a year, and over 250,000 water main breaks in this country. That is what I am running to make sure that we stop doing. Also making sure that that we get rid of the caps on private activity bonds so that we can invest another $1 trillion or $2 trillion into the water systems as well. Because it's very important. Because drinking water is important. It's vital, not just to you being able to use a tap and have clean water, but also putting people back to work, which is what I'm about. Rebuilding our infrastructure. That's why those pre-apprenticeship programs are so very important, so that our kids can get the training that they need here. Because they're going to look for any excuse necessary to deny Detroiters or deny people in the 13th district, quite frankly, who are poor or who are struggling, to be able to get these jobs and opportunities. And we need to do everything we can with it. Government's not going to solve all your problems. It's not. But I believe that government should do for those who can't do for themselves, and that government should make the lives of everyone else a little bit easier. And that's what I'm trying to do. Just ease that burden a little bit and give people the opportunity to be able to achieve their dreams in America. And that's what I'm trying to do every day, and that's what I'm about. Do any callers? No? Oh, okay. Everybody watching the game? Is that what's going on right now? Okay. So that's what I think that's important on that front. Also, let me say this as well. We need to do a better job of caring for our veterans. That's something that's very important. We need to reduce the backlog in the VA, and we also need to change the laws in order to allow veterans to be able to get their unemployment. Because right now you have a lot of veterans who cannot collect unemployment insurance. If you serve this country, if you are willing to give the sacrifice of your life for the greater freedoms that we have here in America, you should not be living in poverty and squalor. That is fundamentally wrong. And that's why I'm running. We should be able to use technology to be able to reduce the backlog at the VA. We should be able to make sure that we pass laws for them to be able to get their unemployment insurance. These are things that we should do, and we should fully fund the TRICARE system so they can be able to get health care. You have veterans that are literally dying in lines, waiting to be served. That is not right. And we can do better than that. Also, in terms of education is concerned, we also need to have universal pre-K. Because our children, a child's mind develops both between 0 and 3 years old. One, we need to invest in early head start and a head start. We got a call. Caller, you on the air. Welcome to Young Effect.
Good evening. Happy Sunday.
Hey, Sylvia.
Yes, we're definitely got to get you in because you're the man for the job. We need you in that Congress seat quickly and swiftly because we need to reverse the curse. The fact that they were able to override and violate their own constitution to come in here and steal the pensions money, the rape of our schools, and the investigation of them raping our land. Thank you for taking my call. You're the man. You're the man. Thank you.
Love you. I appreciate
Love
that.
you.
Love you too. We got another caller? Caller, you on here? Hello? We don't? Okay. So like I was saying again, we need to make sure that we do a better job in terms of educating our children. We also need to invest in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. That's STEAM. That's something that we need to do. Also make sure that we get our money from Title I. That's for low-income areas, as well as Title II. There's money for teachers. And this is a little bit different, but let me say this. Teachers need raises and resources, not guns. We should not be arming our schools. We should not make our schools shooting galleries. If you want to keep kids safe from mass shootings, how about we stop allowing people to buy weapons of war? We need to ban AR-15s. We need to have universal background checks, and we need to make sure that we ban these high-capacity magazines. You don't need a 100-round drum to go shoot geese. I think that's my time. With that being said, listen, I'm Coleman Alexander Young II. Nobody cares how much you know, so they know how much you care. I'm your state senator, soon to be your next congressman, and remember, I'm the only one that's got a 12-year record of fighting for you. We'll see you next time right here on The Young Effect.